Hello, in this quick tutorial we'll be looking at applying different material IDs to faces of an object and then applying a multi-sub-object material to the object. This example will be creating a series of dice, applying the material to the first dice and then looking at how we can copy that material to a number of cloned dice objects. To start off with, we're going to select our first object. Now while we could select polygons from here, we're actually going to create an edit poly modifier. That's going to allow us to copy this modifier to the other objects once we're finished. So first off, we're going to select the polygon selection, select our first face, and since we're making a dice, we're going to have 6 different sides with 6 different materials. So to begin with, set the ID to 1, and then at the back we'll set it to 6. And just like a dice, we'll fill in the other sides with the corresponding numbers. This will just make it easier to assign the different materials later on. And each of these materials will correspond to the number of the dice. Now that we've got our material IDs correctly applied, we're going to go up here to the material editor. And you'll see here that I've already created a multi-sub-object material for a dice. Just quickly go through how I did this. So, show you with the default material. Click here, select the multi-sub object, discard the old material, and now you'll have a number of slots here that correspond to the material IDs of the object that you wish to apply this to. All you have to do is just click here, and now you just want a standard material in this slot. And we don't want anything too fancy, so we're just going to apply a diffuse color, in this case a bitmap. So we'll select the none, go to bitmap, and now what I've done is I've created a number of images corresponding to each side of the dice, and I've named them appropriately so it's easy to identify. So as this was the number 1 object, I'm simply going to open the file here. So I have a number of textures here. This is the first face, so I'll click 1, fine, and I go back to here and you'll see that's applied number 1. So all I did was copy this material to the second slot, and then I would change the map here to number 2. Simply repeat this process and you'll have your multi-sub object. Now you will notice here that I have these 6 faces with the 6 corresponding IDs, but I also have an ID here of 18, which is the default ID of these filleted faces here. And for those, obviously I don't want little dots appearing there, so I've just chosen a blank white texture. Great, so now that that's completed, what we can do is grab our material and drag it to the object. Now what you'll notice is, as we pan around this object, you'll see that the numbers aren't in the correct locations. In fact, they're not visible at all. So what we're going to need to do is apply a UVW map modifier. As you can see, there's a number of options that we have for mapping, and what we're going to choose is the face option. Now as we pan around the object, you'll see that the numbers have been applied to the correct faces. And now finally, we're going to apply these modifiers to these other objects. And to do this, we're going to simply just go here, copy. Now we can select multiple objects. And if we just put in a mesh select modifier, now we can paste in this edit poly, and yes, and simply delete that. And go back here, copy our UVW map, select 3 objects again, paste that in. Finally go to our material editor. Now when we drag this material onto the objects, all the material IDs will be correct. And there you have it. And we can pan around, And there's our dice objects with multi-sub materials.